I think I was in the second grade when my classroom had a tableau representing the months of the year, and I was the Roman god Janus, for whom January is named. And Janus, you see, is on the front of your order of service, and my entire contribution to this tableau was looking back and looking forward. I was very good at that. Janus is the god of thresholds, and do you know what a threshold is? You see it on the cover as well. A threshold is a place in between where you go from one room to the next room and you cross the threshold. And on the subject of thresholds, there are words that I have said at virtually every wedding I have ever officiated, and I have used it on a number of other occasions, including, by the way, this morning's opening words. There are threshold moments in each of our lives. Moments when the past that lies behind us seems present and real. Times when the future that lies ahead of us seems apparent and hopeful. Times such as these, when past and future meet in a vivid awareness of now, are rare and holy. These times remind us that our time together comes to us as a precious gift, a gift that comes with choices and responsibilities for how it is to be used. We recognize the importance of these choices, and we celebrate them. And when out of all the universe, people come together to celebrate their gift of time, it is a special occasion for celebration. This, now, is a special threshold moment which we are gathered to witness and to honor. Our first hymn is Sing Out Praises for the Journey. It was written by Mark Mosier DeWolf, who was one of our first openly gay ministers. Mark died of AIDS. I officiated at his memorial service. Sing Out Praises for the Journey. It's number 295, and you raise your hand when you get to the word threshold.
Sing out
we join in the words of our unison affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia, y el servicio es su ley. Este es nuestro gran pacto, vivir juntos en paz, buscar la verdad en el amor y ayudarnos los unos a los otros.
Good morning. And welcome to First Parish in Bedford, a Unitarian-Universalist congregation. We're so glad you're here on this abnormally warm morning in January. I hope you are making the best of our dire climate crisis by enjoying the weather while it's nice. We are a congregation where you can come as you are to grow into who you are longing to become. And we do our very best to welcome people of all races and genders, sexualities, abilities, class backgrounds, theological beliefs, and spiritual practices. If you are new here, we do encourage you to fill out a blue connections card so we can get to know you better and invite you into this beloved community. We have a lot going on. I know you're shocked. Today, there are a few things I want to draw your attention to. Speaking of the unseasonable weather, there is a book discussion today after the service that the Environmental Justice Committee is hosting. And there will also be a similar book discussion on Wednesday, January 22nd in the evening. So if you can't catch it today, you can catch it then. This will be a discussion of the book Climate Church, Climate World. But it's okay if you didn't read the book, you can still come. So there will be a light lunch at 11:45, followed by the discussion in the common room today, or catch it on Wednesday, January 22nd, when we will be inviting in people from the community and other faith communities as well to join us on that Wednesday evening. Also today, we have the fourth of our 6-session Trans Inclusion in Congregations. So that will be upstairs in room 202. And if you can't make that because you're doing the climate justice or something else, you can catch us next time on February 2nd with our 5th session. So please join for that. And lastly today at 4 p.m., there's a webinar about You, the Vote. And this is an endeavor coming out of the Side with Love campaign at the Unitarian-Universalist Association. And I really encourage you to check it out. The woman who is putting this together, Reverend Ashley Horan, is someone I know well and I trust deeply. So whatever she's doing, I think it's worth at least giving it a go. And I appreciate the Peace and Justice group here promoting this webinar. They sent out the information on email, but it's 4 p.m. You can call in, get in on your computer, so anybody can attend that virtually. And then next Sunday, there will be an art reception in the Bacon Room for some beautiful new art that's been donated. There will be a workshop on the Enneagram. And if you don't know what that is, stay tuned. Check your email. There will be much information coming right at you today about that. So just keep those in your mind. And I think that's enough for one announcement session. We'll be inviting up Kids Sing to regale us with their very fun song about a jolly red nose that I've been getting previews of, and I think it's going to be pretty good.
So the music today honors welcoming back John. And that last song captures the essence of John.
The essence of John, what a scary thought. Kids and teachers are off to their classes and we'll sing Spirit of Life. If you don't know it, it's at number 123. Español. Fuente de amor, ven hacia mí, il corazón, cántale tu compasión, sopla al volar, sube en la mar, hasta moldear la justicia de la vida. Arréglame, libérame, fuente de amor, ven a mí, ven a mí.
Good morning, I'm Nancy Doherty from the Lay Pastoral Care Team, and I would like to invite people to come up and light a candle of joy or concern to share with the congregation. I'll stay by the candle stand after the service in case you'd like to light a private one. I'll light one last candle for all those joys and concerns that remain in our hearts.
You may turn in your Bibles to Paul's letter to the Ephesians, chapter 6, verses 10 to 18. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore take unto you the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all to stand. Stand, therefore, having your loins girt about with truth, and having on the breastplate of righteousness, and your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith ye shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked, and take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God, praying always with all prayer and supplication in the Spirit, and watching thereunto with all perseverance and supplication for all saints. Freely we have received. Freely give for the good work of this congregation within and far, far beyond these walls. Our morning offering will now gratefully be received. So, I have been to church every Sunday since October 1st. A show of hands from those of you who can say the same. More than I might have expected. Churches we have visited: Little Rock, Arkansas, Tucson, then Flagstaff, Arizona, Los Alamos, then Farmington, New Mexico. Those you use have a total of 20 members. Tulsa, Oklahoma, 3 services on Sunday morning, and we got a taste of all 3. Traditional, contemporary, and humanist, 2,230 members, the largest in the association. Then, back home in mid-November, Hope Central, United Church of Christ in Jamaica Plain, Christ the King Sunday, including communion, 7:30 a.m. services at St. Anne's Episcopal in Arlington, also with communion. And that was a morning double header with First Parish Lexington. And then the Paulist Center in Boston, and then Fallon UU in East Lexington, First Parish Concord, Arlington Street Church, All Souls UU in New York City, Christmas Eve at UU Rockport, and 2 Sundays ago, First Parish in Malden. I have got the canceled checks to prove it. Sue and I got to sit together for a change. Hello back there. There were some very good church experiences, some okay, and some indifferent, but there is no place like home. Dearly beloved, as I said last Sunday, thank you for this gift of time away. I have, and I'm sure many of you have, a kind of radar that scans the landscape 24 hours a day. It was a gift to turn off my church radar and not lie in bed at dawn with a sense of impending doom or duty or mishigas. Thank you to all our staff and leaders and volunteers and you for showing up. It is so hard to believe, but so many great things happened here without me. There is an old story about a minister who went to the train station early every morning just to watch the trains and then went home. Why do you do this? Someone finally asked. The minister replied, I just love to watch things move without my having to push them. I loved watching Thanksgiving and Christmas just roll down that track. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank you also for letting me come back. I am because you are is the African concept of Ubuntu. We exist only inasmuch as we are in relation with one another. As long as I am one of your ministers, I am because you are. I will be with you and for you to the utmost of my energies. And now and in the future, we will be more together than we could possibly be apart. People ask, so what did you do for the last 3 months? And I won't condemn you to a travelogue of home movies, but just so everyone knows, and I don't have to repeat this 100 times, setting out on October 1st on what would be an 8,000-mile road trip, we first visited family in Rochester, New York, and Columbus, Ohio, and then one beautiful day in Kentucky. In one day, we visited the birthplace of Abraham Lincoln, the monastery of Thomas Merton, and the Maker's Mark Distillery. A trifecta, Holy Trinity. Also in Kentucky is Mammoth Cave, which, by the way, is a really big cave. 412 miles at least. In Arkansas, we recommend the Clinton Presidential Library. In Las Cruces, New Mexico, we hiked in the Organ Mountains and the Sonoran Desert. Sue's and my destination was Patagonia, Arizona, south of Tucson, where our son Eric and his husband George live. Patagonia consists of hippies and cowboys. Eric and George are not cowboys. We hiked and talked and savored one another's company. Patagonia is known for its biodiversity, more than 200 species of hummingbirds. And biodiversity is threatened, by the way, by the border wall, which we also visited when we walked into Mexico and saw memorials to those immigrants killed by the Border Patrol or who died in the desert. No more deaths, no más muertes. These signs are representative of a ministry of the UU Church in Tucson. And it was while we were there that one of their members was acquitted for the crime of leaving water in the desert as humanitarian aid. You've heard me say that in these dangerous days, I believe we must put ourselves in the way of trouble. Get in good trouble, counsels John Lewis. But to be able to do so, we must also, as was said by the author Cheryl Strayed, put ourselves in the way of beauty. I think that's a balance we try to strike here in this church, getting in trouble and being in the way of beauty. But for the last 3 months, I have erred on the side of beauty, hiking, breathing deeply, savoring. Remember, it was E.B. White who once said, "I arise in the morning torn between a desire to save the world and a desire to savor the world." This, E.B. White said, makes it hard to plan the day. Getting in the way of beauty has been good for my health, and I recommend it, but I hope to be getting in more trouble again soon as well. Sedona, many of you have been to Sedona. Sedona is all about beauty. One of you recommended Kitts Peak Astronomical Observatory, which is awesome. And Page, Arizona, Horseshoe Bend, Glen Canyon Dam, Lake Powell, Rainbow Bridge, the astonishing Antelope Slot Canyons, Monument Valley, Marble Canyon, Navajo National Monument, Aztec Ruins, Chaco Canyon, Taos Pueblo, the futuristic, sustainable Earthship architecture. In Taos, we also sought out the grave of Easy Rider star Dennis Hopper, though a friend then texted me saying, "Don't linger, he was a Republican." So many of the places we visited were and are sacred to Native peoples, some continuously occupied for thousands of years. Our patina of New England idealism must never blind us to the original sin of genocide and racism, nor to the persistence, despite everything, of those whom our forebears failed to annihilate. And there were fabulous museums. Georgia O'Keeffe in Santa Fe, Woody Guthrie in Tulsa, Crystal Bridges in, of all places, Bentonville, Arkansas, one of the finest art museums in the entire world, thanks, to Walton Walmart money. George Washington Carver National Monument in Missouri. And then there was Hannibal, Missouri, and the fence that Tom Sawyer got his friends to whitewash. And Springfield, Illinois, land of Lincoln, and Annie's hometown of Normal, Illinois. Outside of Chicago, we visited the 80-year-old woman who is the girlfriend of the convicted murderer I visit here in prison. And she is just by the way, the daughter of the greatest of UU theologians, James Luther Adams. Go figure. We visited my parents' graves in Sandwich, Illinois, my father's favorite coffee shop in Elmhurst, and the farm in Aurora, where my mother grew up. You've heard me talk of that farm before. My grandparents, Irv and Olive Johnson, worked it from something like 1900 until 1937, when, for lack of $150, they lost the farm. On the night before the bank foreclosed, my grandparents tried to get Franklin Roosevelt on the telephone, without success. Irv put his fist through a window. In its heyday, his plow was worked by 2 horses, Nip and Tuck. Irv found lots of arrowheads in the fields. His favored breakfast on the farm was eggs and a shot of gin. On July 5th, 1935, my parents were married in the living room at the farm. Standing in front of the fireplace altar, my father wore striped boxer shorts, visible to everyone through his white pants. And so, in November, it took Sue and me forever just to find the farm, surrounded as it is now by suburban developments. And when we did find it, it was mostly empty, run down, and nearly abandoned. I peered through the dingy front windows into the living room, and I imagined my parents, my father's boxers, the telephone call, my grandfather's fist. Cultural changes I have observed. Since I last traveled cross-country, there are more casinos everywhere. There are fewer adult superstores. The internet has put a dent in that business. The usual roadside attractions selling jerky, peanut brittle, and fireworks have now been augmented by stun guns and knives, CBD, and vaping products. There are food deserts and an obscene proliferation of Family Dollar, Dollar General, and dollar stores everywhere. There are billboards for personal injury lawyers and for religion. Are you going to heaven or hell? There is evidence for God. Prevent opioid deaths with Narcan. And pro-gun Burma shave-style signs. Crooks are many, cops are few. Crooks carry guns. Why can't you? And if you don't like this country, leave. This country also has a heck of a lot of caves and caverns. Now, many with patriotic light shows. And something new in every hamlet, escape rooms. How are you? I ask a local. The response, blessed, thank you. And have a blessed day. West of the Mississippi, biscuits and gravy, not east. Having been on the road for nearly 6 weeks and not having killed one another, I figured it was time for Sue and me to come home. She would have kept going. One of our last stops was the well-preserved Oneida community in New York, one of the most successful of 19th century communes. It was sex positive in a somewhat progressive but still patriarchal and twisted way. They practiced weird birth control. I don't need to tell you about it, but you can Google and read all about it yourself. Children were raised in common, and they made money by making silver, Oneida ware, and they also made animal traps. I now own a 150-year-old Oneida mousetrap. On the road, we listen to audiobooks. Albert Brooks' dystopian novel 2030, Los Angeles is sold to the Chinese. Young people revolt against the olds for taking up too many resources, sort of like a weaponized version of, okay, boomer. We listen to 19 hours of Wendell Berry's wonderful That Distant Land. Michael Eric Dyson's Tears We Cannot Stop, a sermon to white America. And podcasts, Throughline and Invisibilia. Back home, I've been reading the late, great essayist, novelist, and poet Brian Doyle. I've even read Dave Packer's memoir, Finding Joy, A Life Explored. Oh, the luxury of reading a book. Like Jimmy Durante said, I'll never forget the day I read a book. How many of you have never heard of Jimmy Durante? I'm surprised. And there's still so much to do at home, but I have now decluttered my closet. I came to the conclusion that I really do not need 105 t-shirts. But they will make a fine quilt. And just before Christmas, we spent several days in New York City. We went to theater, To Kill a Mockingbird, privileged white lawyer Atticus Finch coming down off his porch to enter the racial fray. That remains a powerful metaphor for what white America still needs to do. Come down off the porch. We also experienced a performance by our good friend, Reverend Billy, and the Stop Shopping Choir. They send their greetings. Earth-alleluia! I haven't told you that our church in that back closet has a couple of floor-standing candelabras that are flopsy, flimsy, and inadequate, such that last month I commissioned a blacksmith to make us new ones. I hope we will see the new candelabra here later this spring. And there was one more museum in New York, the Tenement Museum. It is an immigration museum that made as indelible an impression as any museum has ever left upon me. On the Lower East Side, these are tenements built in the 19th century that have seen successions of refugees, migrants, and immigrants. One apartment we visited was occupied in the 50s by Jewish Holocaust refugees, and some of its rooms replicate their lives exactly. Under 50 coats of paint, there is a mezuzah still on its front door. In the 60s, the same apartment was occupied by Puerto Rican immigrants. Puerto Rican migrants. Remember, there's a distinction here between migrants and immigrants and refugees. In the 50s, It was the Jewish Holocaust refugees, and then in the 60s, the same apartment was occupied by Puerto Rican migrants, and other rooms reflect their lives exactly. And under now 25 coats of paint, there is a cross next to the mezuzah. And then in the 70s, that same apartment was home to a family of Chinese immigrants. Peering in those rooms at the Tenement Museum, like peering into that now abandoned Illinois farmhouse, reminded me of the sacrifices made, the hardships endured, and the legacy of hope and determination that we now inherit and challenges us. At the Tenement Museum, it occurred to me that someday I hope there will be a plaque outside the room we used to call 201, but which we now call Maria's apartment. A plaque to honor the sacrifice, the hardship, the hope, and the determination exhibited by Maria and her family, by this congregation, and by so many others. We thank Maria for the opportunity to live our faith. We pray for a miracle, and we fight as though our lives depend on it, which they do. Now, about this fight. Last Sunday night, a week ago, nearly 40 of Maria's family members, young and old, gathered with our sanctuary committee in our common room to lament and to honor Maria's more than 2 years with us in sanctuary. It was so poignant. On behalf of their family, Maria's brother presented us with 2 gifts. This mug depicting 2 hiking boots with a Bible between them inscribed Caminando en Fe, walking in faith. And that is what we are doing here, walking together in faith. And yes, let's put our boots on. And yes, there's a Bible. We can put the Bible between the boots. But we are Unitarian-Universalists, and so let's also put in John Buren's book, Conflagration: How the Transcendentalists Sparked the American Struggle for Racial, Gender, and Social Justice. And, well, what the heck? Let's also put a blank book so that we may write our own gospel, Caminando en Fe. And last Sunday, Maria's brother also gave us this fine item. We are in a struggle, my friends. And as John Buren said last week, we hope that it is a nonviolent struggle. But we are in a struggle for the soul of this nation, for the values of humanity, for the survival of all sentient beings, and we are in a fight for the earth itself. We must put on the full armor of God. As was said in Ephesians, we must defend against the devil, against powers and principalities, against spiritual wickedness in high places. You know, I didn't used to use those words very much. I wasn't perhaps even certain what they meant. I know today exactly what they mean. Maybe I didn't know those words or use those words. But now, beloveds, Their meaning could not be clearer. Moreover, we need to be armored so that we may stand and withstand. Our loins girt about with truth, having the breastplate of righteousness, our feet shod by the gospel of peace, taking the shield of faith wherewith we shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked. Are you with me, beloved? And we shall take the helmet of universal salvation and the sword of the Spirit. Spirit of life, come unto us. Standing here at this threshold, in this liminal time, we all look back in gratitude for preserving us unto this present moment, for every experience and every person living and dead, remembered and forgotten. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And now, we look forward, not in fear and apprehension, but in hope and expectation. Despite everything, there is so much for us to do, for us to be. There is so much and so many for us to love. May we save and may we savor. May it be so. Beloved, I love you very much. Annie, why don't you come on up here and we'll teach this closing song.
This is a song that comes from a Jewish rabbi, a songwriter, Shoshana Jedwab, and she wrote it based on the book of Ruth, which is a story in the Hebrew scriptures about a woman named Naomi, and she goes from Israel to Moab. And in Moab, her sons marry Moabite women, but then her sons die, and she decides she needs to go back to her people in Israel. So she says, I'm going back. And her daughters-in-law, both of them say, no, we'll come with you back to Israel, but they are Moabite women. And she says, no, don't do that. That would be ridiculous. What are you going to do there? They're not your people, and I don't have any more sons for you. So one of them says, well, that's pretty good advice, and she decides to stay in Moab. But the other, her name's Ruth, and she says those famous lines that are often quoted in weddings, where you go, I will go, your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. And she goes with Naomi to Israel. And I love this song because in a time when Jewish people are being increasingly persecuted, in a time when people who cross borders to be with their beloveds are increasingly persecuted, we can sing this song. And it is a song about crossing borders, and it is a song about unlikely commitments, and it is a song about loving ourselves and loving our people and being with each other on difficult journeys, which is one of the fundamental things that church is about. Being together with each other on all of our difficult journeys. Let us commit to that as we sing this song. There is an English verse and a Spanish verse. And the Spanish verse, our sanctuary guest helped me to write. So gratitude to her for helping us have a Spanish verse. The words, I'm going to say them so you can hear how they sound in case you don't speak Spanish. Donde vayas, yo voy, querida. Donde vayas, yo voy. Y tu pueblo es mi pueblo. Tu pueblo es mío. Tu pueblo es mi pueblo. Y tu Dios también mío. Those are the Spanish words. Steve will help us get going on that. Please rise as willing and able for this one. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. And your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. Your divine, my divine. Donde vayas yo voy, querida. Donde vayas yo voy. Donde vayas yo voy, querida. Donde vayas yo voy. Y tu pueblo es mi pueblo. Tu pueblo es Sion. Tu pueblo es mi pueblo. Y tu Dios también mío. One more time in English. Don't where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. And your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people.
There are threshold moments in each of our lives, moments when the past that lies behind us seems present and real, moments when the future that lies ahead of us seems apparent and hopeful. Times such as these, when past and future meet in a vivid awareness of now, are rare and holy. These times remind us that our time together comes to us as a precious gift, a gift that comes with choices and responsibilities for how it is to be used. We recognize the importance of these choices in our lives, and we celebrate them. And when people choose to share their gift of time, it is a special occasion for celebration. This is a special threshold moment, here and now, which we are gathered to witness and to honor. Amen.
day I read a book. It was contagious, 70 pages. There were pictures here and there, so it wasn't hard to bear. The day I read a book. It's a shame I don't recall the name of the book. It wasn't a history, I know, because it had no plot. It wasn't a mystery, because nobody there got shot. One day I read a book, I can't remember when, but one of these days I'm gonna do it again, yes sir. One of these days I'm gonna do it again.